Let's call this Planning Commission meeting to order on this 14th day of March. Welcome everybody, and the few there that are in the audience today. Hopefully we have one or two more show up, and I guess we have a couple on Zoom that'll be catching us a little bit later as we go through the applications, the general business portion. We'll begin this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance directed by Shelley, and then I'll give the opening prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Heavenly Father, we bow our heads before Thee this evening to give Thee thanks for the blessings that we have. We're grateful to find ourselves in this meeting, to be able to discuss the growth and opportunities here in this beautiful city of Santa Clara. We're grateful to live here. We're grateful for our neighbors and the residents that live here and the friendships and safety that we feel in this community. We ask a special blessing on those that are at the helm of this country, that they'll make decisions that are in the best interests of this country. Also those upon the state and here on this local government. We ask a blessing on them that they'll be able to make wise decisions, and this evening we'll be able to discuss freely some of the matters of business going on in the city and some of the growth and how we can best direct and have direction in what's happening here. We're grateful again for all that we have. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
We don't have any public hearings this morning as we go through this afternoon as we go through the working agenda. Do we want to talk about the next Friday, or do you want to bring that up at the end?
I think I'll bring that up at the end.
Okay, we'll discuss that
Yeah.
at the end. So let's hop right into the general business portion of the agenda. Number 4.1, the preliminary subdivision plat review for the Redland Estates subdivision located at 2456 Vineyard Drive. Are you presenting this?
I am. Thank you,
Okay.
Vice Chair. So I'll go ahead and present this. What I wanted to let you know tonight is you can see from the agenda, all of these items, the three we have, are Planning Commission approval items. And so since we changed the subdivision ordinance as per state code late last year, the preliminary plat approvals are done by the Planning Commission only. They do not go on to the council. And so that's something we've discussed a few times, just making you aware of that. The applicant on this one is Dan Fry. Dan is being represented by Alan Hall from Rosenberg Engineering, and Alan is on the Zoom call, so if we have some questions for him. The request is for the Redland Estates subdivision, and the plat includes 3 single-family lots, and you can see that on the overhead. It's just over 1 acre in size. The zoning is R110, which requires a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet. The proposed lots range in size from 10,438 square feet, which is 0.24 acres, to 18,034 square feet, which is 0.41 acres. Low density, of course, at 2.7 dwelling units per acre. All the lots within the subdivision will be required to meet the area width and yard regulations as per code, and the owner intends to build single-family homes on the subject property. However, right now, if you've driven by the property, well, and it's been there for some time, the proposed Lot 1 has an existing single-family home already on it. That's been there for some time, and you can see that that's been placed on this preliminary plat drawing. Access to the site will be provided from either Claude Drive or Vineyard Drive. You can see the new extension of Claude Drive if you've been out to the site, and it's shown on the plat. Vineyard Drive has had some recent improvements with 4-foot sidewalk put on either side throughout the area. And so I'll just go through some of the items of the preliminary plat: the public streets and dedication, the public street improvements. I don't know why the microphone's doing that. will have to be required to meet the public standard. As I previously indicated, Vineyard Drive was recently modified to include the 4-foot sidewalks on each side of the road, which is great because we didn't have those before along Vineyard. And then a portion of Clara which fronts lots 2 and 3 has recently been installed, and that meets public street improvement requirements. So you can see the drawing in the upper right-hand corner. It says typical 50-foot public street. It's showing you that cross-section, which includes, you know, the asphalt, the curb and gutter, and the sidewalks. We talked about the existing home on Lot 1 and showing that footprint. We have them show that to verify setbacks, because as you know, the front setback in an R110 is 25 feet. They're showing the existing home at 27.8. And then Lot 2 is a corner lot, so they have 2 front yard setbacks of 25 feet. And then Lot 3 would be a standard interior lot. So they have gone and put the required setbacks here, as well as the footprint of the existing home, to verify that it meets all required setbacks. And then dust control. The applicant will be required to submit a dust control plan prior to final plat recordation. We always want to err on the side of caution to protect the general health, safety, and welfare of residents living in the vicinity. Public notices are not required for a subdivision plat. State code requires that the agenda be posted, and that has been done. We've not received any comments from adjacent residents or anyone in the area for that matter on this application. As far as our reviewing departments, the 2 new homes will require geotechnical reports prior to building permit. And then power, just, you know, indicating that where the public utility easements are on the plat, and you can see those. It's clearly been defined in the drawings. And then with our Public Works Department, the PUEs as well, that the public streets, you know, be included on the plat, which they are, and then they'll have to go through and the process of submitting a Mylar and getting all the signatures prior to plat recordation. Utah code requires the city to hold a public meeting to consider a plat. We're doing that right now. So we've determined that all state code requirements have been met. And so at this time, city staff recommends that the Planning Commission consider granting preliminary subdivision plat approval for the Redland Estates subdivision, subject to the conditions in the staff report, and we have a total of 8. They're pretty standard conditions. At this point, I'll turn it back to you, Vice Chair, and then our applicant, Alan Hall, is also on the Zoom call if the Planning Commission has questions for him.
Thank you, Jim. Mr. Hall, would you like to add anything to that?
No, Jim pretty much covered it.
Perfect. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Hall?
I guess just for my information, the road is existing up like midway to this back lot, and you're
Yep.
proposing that they finish it at least half of the road to the end.
It's there actually on
Is it?
Claude.
Okay.
We just had them show the cross section. They've actually extended it to the limits of this property
Okay,
along the frontage. So the asphalt, curb gutter, and sidewalk have been put in, and then it wraps around on Vineyard. And the idea is it was known that the applicant would be moving forward with this subdivision when the road project, the retrofit of Vineyard was being done. And so some of the improvements associated with Claude were put in at that time by the contractor.
Will that road ever go through?
Yeah, it shows it on our master plan. It could eventually go through and tie into Arrowhead. So there's plenty of room because there's property. You see Evan Alt, and then there's another owner as well, and they would have frontage on the roadway as it works its way to Arrowhead Trail. So eventually, when they're ready to develop, there's a few acres there where there could be some lots.
Is there any plans with that house that currently, because that's resided in right now, right?
Yeah.
That home, so it's just going to stay the way it is?
It's going to stay at this time, and that's why we have them showing that it meets all setbacks. There's a potential someone could eventually buy it and remodel it or add on to it, but right now it is being used as a dwelling unit, and the family, the Fry Trust, plans to continue using it that way.
And in order to
It's
get
my
to-
understanding there's a family renting it, and so the Frys own it and they use it.
Oh, they do own that home?
Yes.
Oh, interesting,
Yeah.
okay.
The Fry Trust, right, it's Victor and Gwendolyn Fry Trust that own that, so. Is that correct, Alan? They currently rent the home?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? We'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary subdivision plat for Redland Estates subdivision located at 2456 Vineyard Drive, subject to the, were there items? Eight recommendations by staff.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Harris and second by Commissioner Walton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I guess it passes, or it's approved with unanimous consent. We are approving this, right? We're not moving this
Correct.
forward with a yes. So this
Correct. It's a
plat
motion
has
to
been
approve.
approved. Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, let's continue on in the working agenda. General business item number A2, the preliminary subdivision plat review for the Clara Crossing subdivision located on the corner of Gates Lane and Santa Clara Drive. Neil Walter is the applicant and Jared is here representing him. So turn the time over to you, Jim.
Thanks, Commissioner Whitehead. Neil is out of town on a family trip, and Jared Bates with Rosenberg Engineering is representing him this evening. He's requesting preliminary plat approval for the Clara Crossing subdivision. The plat includes a total of 5 single-family lots. The subject property is 2.9 acres in size. The proposed subdivision includes 2 zoning districts. So you may recall he had a rezoning that came before you a few months ago to kind of clear up the zoning boundaries and kind of clean up the site. We have the R110 Single Family Historic District, and that's for lots 4 and 5, which front on Santa Clara Drive. They require a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet. And then lots 1, 2, and 3 are in the residential agricultural zone, which requires a lot size minimum of half an acre. The proposed lots range in size from 11,379 square feet to 33,371 square feet, which is 0.70 of an acre. Again, low density. The 5 lots equate to a density of 1.68 dwelling units per acre. Both lots 1, 2, and 3 and lots 4 and 5 will be required to meet the area width and yard regulations per our code. The property owner intends to build single-family homes on the property, and the subject property was rezoned on December 13, 2023 by the City Council by Ordinance 2023-2024. Prior to that zoning, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on November 9, 2023 and recommended approval to the City Council. And as you'll recall, it was a cleanup on the zoning boundaries to make it clear where the R110 line was versus the RA line. Access to the site will be provided via Santa Clara Drive for lots 4 and 5 and Benelli Trail for lots 1, 2, and 3. And Benelli Trail will be required to be improved to a public road standard. As you know, the property's on the corner of Gates Lane and Santa Clara Drive. There's been some different development proposals on the site over the years, but now the owner is intending to do a single-family residential subdivision, and as you can see, the residents in the area are happy with that. They came for the rezoning. We don't have a lot of folks out tonight to discuss this with us. They're happy that it will be developed as single-family homes in the area. And so public streets, I'll go over some preliminary plat items. The public streets must meet city standards. Benelli Trail, and you can see on the plat here where Benelli Trail would be put in place, extending the length of the subdivision. And then down here is a cross-section of the future Benelli Trail. That's going to include a 60-foot cross-section with a 5-foot landscape strip and a 10-foot multi-purpose trail adjacent to the Santa Clara River on the south side. That same cross-section was put in place for the Roan subdivision. East of this site, you've got a few properties, and then you get down to the Roan area, and you have that same cross-section with the landscape strip and the 10-foot multi-purpose trail. A proposed temporary turnaround with a 50-foot radius will be required for fire and emergency vehicle access. You can see that on the plat. And a road base will be required for that turnaround. And then I talk about the trails master plan, the 10-foot multi-purpose trail running along the south side of Benelli was shown on the trails master plan. The applicant will be required to dedicate the 60-foot roadway with the city installing and maintaining the 10-foot multi-purpose trail. A portion I mentioned on Benelli Trail and to the east and the Roan subdivision east of Chapel Street has been already put in. We've talked about the building setbacks already. Building height is limited to 35 feet for both of these zones, the R110 and the RA zone. The subject property includes changes in grade across the site. As a result, several retaining walls are proposed for the project. City staff is recommending that the final construction drawings include full details for all proposed retaining walls. And so we've talked about that with our building official and our public works director, with Jared Bates, the engineer. We did that recently with the Arrowhead Trail subdivision in the case of Bart Smith because of the changes in grade over there on Lava and Arrowhead Trail. We have some basement limitations associated with this plat. It'll be for building lots 1, 2, and 3. All 3 lots have a 100-year floodplain and erosion hazard zone limitations as shown on the preliminary plat. Additionally, a flood elevation certificate will be required for residential buildings on these lots. If you've driven by it recently, you can see some water on the property because when it rains, you get that. And then dust control. We need to make sure that we have precautionary measures in place to protect the general health, safety, and welfare of residents in the area. Again, public notices are not required for a subdivision plat, and we've posted the agenda in multiple sites as per state code. We've received no comments as of the writing of the report or prior to tonight's meeting. Now, for reviewing departments, we have some comments by each on this one because this subdivision is a little more technical. A geotechnical report is, of course, going to be required for all residential buildings prior to permit issuance. The Parks and Trails Department talks about a 10-foot multi-purpose trail along Benelli as per the 2018 Trails Master Plan. Police and Fire. This is fire that a temporary turnaround with a 50-foot radius is required for fire and emergency vehicle access that you can see down here. Power Department, that PUEs are required, and Public Works, similar. You know, you have to show the public street and dedicate it, and you'll have to go through the process of having a Mylar done and getting the signatures. State Code, Section 52.4202 includes requirements for subdivisions. A city must hold a public meeting to consider a subdivision plat, which we're doing tonight. We've determined that we've met all state code requirements with this application. So, city staff is recommending that the Planning Commission consider granting preliminary subdivision plat approval for the Clara Crossing subdivision, subject to the conditions as outlined in the staff report. We have a total of 10. So, you know, we have a condition that's a little bit of a hybrid, number 3, because of the 60-foot right-of-way for Benelli Trail. That's a little bit different. And then we, you know, have 2 different zoning districts, so, you know, the restrictions are a little bit different. And then item number 7, the no basements being allowed on lots 1, 2, and 3. Otherwise, it's pretty standard. The applicant's representative, Jared Bates, is here. If planning commissioners have questions on this one, I'll turn the time back to you, Commissioner Whitehead. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bates, you have any comments? Anything you'd like to add? Perfect. We'll turn the time over to discussion for the commission members. A question that I had.
He may have a comment. Do you have a comment? Your microphone's not working?
No, my computers did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Whitehead.
Where do they measure the 10-foot park strip from? Is that from the edge of the river, or do they, how's that measured? Where do they figure that from?
So you have the curb and gutter, and you have a 5-foot park strip, and then you have the 10-foot multi-purpose trail. So it's on the other south side of the right-of-way. That's how it's done. So it's going to be closest to the river, of course.
Correct. I just didn't know if you
Yeah.
measured that from that retaining wall or from that flood mitigation, if that's where it
Good
started
question.
at 1 foot or if it was measured
So-
backwards.
Oh, that's a good question. So basically what we did is if you walk out there today, can you hear me okay? Yeah, so there's the rock riprap that's out there, the rock that's there. Basically, we kind of surveyed in that edge and offset it basically 2.5 feet, and then started the 10-foot trail to try to match the elevation, so they're pretty close to that. And then the road kind of goes that way. So that kind of controlled the road location is where that trail fit in. So we're not tearing out that rock or going down below.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Got it.
Got it?
I'm looking at your
Go
screen.
ahead, Mark.
I'm looking at your screen, but at least I can see what is going on now.
Okay.
So they're not doing anything on this lower section where the cul-de-sac is? There's not enough room for anything else down there, right?
Not at this time, but go ahead, Jared.
Just gonna be
Yeah.
like open space?
For now, it's going to stay ag, and then eventually there are some thoughts of future development, but for today, they're just going to go ahead and finish these 5, and then in the future, there might be something developed.
So Mr. Walter owns the property. He owns this, and then this
This section,
property, the
yeah.
next piece of property that's 10-plus acres. At some point, he's mentioned he's looking to build a home and have a barn and a stable, that type of stuff, because they have horses.
And he could just come off the cul-de-sac
He
then?
could,
Be
potentially.
like a private drive or something to
He
the
could,
house?
he could. I mean, it would require that it be finished,
Yeah.
to a public standard like the rest of this. If he chooses to go that route, he could also choose to subdivide some more lots and extend the road. So
Okay.
we just
That was
don't know the
originally
final
going to
plan yet.
connect,
I
wasn't
was
it?
going to say, wasn't that originally, the plan was that Benelli would go all the way through?
Yeah.
And it's designed that way so that there is, it's space and like the alignment of it could go straight through and finish up. But until he wants to develop it, we're not going to show it on there, basically.
We've had some discussions about that. We can't force it because private property owners have property rights. All we can do is encourage them to extend the road and continue it and connect it. But if a property owner at some points decides to terminate that in a cul-de-sac, they would have a right to do so. Of course, we'd try to work with them to extend the trail if it's possible. And maybe they put a wall in place, like a semi-private fence or wall, but adjacent to that 10-foot trail. That way, you could still have public access with not getting on their property.
Okay.
Because what's going to happen, kids will be kids. We were all kids that you're going to
Yeah.
walk and go where you want along that trail. So if we don't have some semblance of a trail, chances are we could have trespass issues. So it's just something we've talked about.
We're working on it.
And hopefully we can work with the owner on something like that. But they may decide to do more lots. They may decide to do a big estate lot. I think that's still being contemplated. We don't have that answer at this time.
Okay.
Does he own the property all the way to the Mail Road Street, the Post Office Street? I don't know what that's called. Is that Victor? Chapel?
No, that's Chapel.
Chapel?
I believe he
And is-
does because he
Yeah.
owns, it's either,
Or is there a park on that other end?
No, so he owns the property,
Yeah.
down to the next road that's incomplete. Is that Victor or is that Chapel?
Victor, I'm
Victor.
sorry, there's Victor and
Oh,
then there's Chapel.
The one that doesn't go all the way through?
Yes,
Then-
so he
Oh,
owns
okay.
the bottom part of that, but not
Victor.
in between.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
all the way down, yeah. So-
And then you've got issues with those property owners too, on Victor and Chapel, ever allowing more access to tie into Benelli. So that's, this is phase 1. There's obviously going to be other phases as this is developed and other discussions and sets of circumstances to ever get everything to tie in together.
But the way it is designed now is allows for all that future development to happen without tearing things up or doing something differently. So that was kind of the point with this too.
Yeah.
Okay, and then lot 4 and 5 are just walkout lots, correct?
Yeah.
Got it.
And the access will come off of Santa Clara Drive. We've
Yes,
talked
correct.
about that. And then there won't be access on gates, so Lot 1's access will have to come off of Benelli as well. Nice lots.
I like
mean,
it, yeah.
I think it'll do well. I'm just driving around recently. I've seen in Lugano, the owner of Lugano's building just a small place down at the cul-de-sac. And then in Vineyards 11, Kent Fry's property, there's one large home being built,
Right.
So he's got 19 half-acre lots or larger there, and the Logano's got 4 additional lots, and we're creating a few lots here. There's a market for it. People will buy these and build. I don't know on those other 2 subdivisions if they're waiting for those first homes to be done. I'm not sure. It seemed like Jason Lindsay wasn't in a hurry until his home was done to sell these lots. Right across the street, the Logano
Yeah.
subdivision. So,
Yeah, my understanding is the interest is pretty high on all these lots, so
yeah, yeah.
we'll see.
They'll eventually sell. Depends on the price point, so.
I'm good.
The thing that's kind of interesting or fun about this one on lots 4 and 5, they're in that historic district overlay. So they're going to have to meet the new design guidelines that we're going to put in place in a couple months here to build those homes, and they're aware of that. So we'll have a couple cool looking, things that kind of fit in with the historic, and then we'll have larger homes down below, is what's likely. So.
And those just go to the historic district, they don't have to come back to us? It's 'cause
Correct.
we're
They'll go
approving
to
plat.
they'll go to the Historic District Committee, the Heritage Committee. We have a Historic District Committee that was formed by the mayor that's rewriting, working on the design guidelines. But then, once that's done, the document will be for the Heritage Commission that we've had for a long time to review projects under. But that's correct. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes.
All right, if there's no other comments or questions, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion that we accept the subdivision plat for preliminary plat for the Santa Clara Crossing, or the Clara Crossing subdivision on the corner of Greets Lane and Santa Clara Drive, as described with the conditions noted by council or by staff. I was upgrading you to council,
I'm good.
Esquire.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Weston and a second by Commissioner Wallen. And it looks like the preliminary, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The preliminary subdivision plat for the Clara Crossing subdivision receives it passes with approval with unanimous consent at this time. So I guess they'll continue on with what their plans are in that development.
Just one, for my curiosity. This will not come back for full plat, or
Correct.
this is
So
essentially-
there is still a lot of work to be done. State code requires that they come back and do it administratively with city staff. So we had one on today for phase 2 of Solus. It's been the second time. And so, we look at them real thoroughly before we allow them to record the plat. But in the spirit of what the state wants, they want the process streamlined. So it's preliminary with planning commission and then final with staff. So now we may run across much more complicated subdivisions in the future, and those are ones that can be tabled or, brought back as needed or necessary. So you still have that ability to deny, table, continue, let them come back a second time, which we've done on some of the more complicated PD projects. So that's very likely still. Okay.
Great, moving on. Thank you, Jared. Item 3, the proposed wall sign for America First Credit Union located at 3520 Pioneer Parkway. Skylar Walser is the applicant. Is he online?
Yes, I believe Skylar's online, and I'll be brief, and then we'll give him an opportunity. This is really a change out for America First. We're all familiar with the Harmons building. This is on the far west end over by the portico share, or the covering on the west end of the building where they have a lot of the product outside. They're looking to, the original sign is the one on the left side of the drawing that has the white and the blue. And the new sign, which is actually smaller, is blue and silver with some white lettering. And right now, the existing sign's about 100 square feet. The new sign with the new corporate branding, I assume, is about 90 square feet. So it becomes a little bit smaller. It does meet the sign ordinance for size. They are proposing a cabinet with an aluminum top decor and internally illuminated white LED lighting. The wall sign will be flush mounted to the building, and it's going to replace the existing sign. We don't have any issues with this one. It seems to be an improvement to the sign package on the building and signage for the America First, as you know, which is inside the Harmon's building. City staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the proposed wall sign for the America First Credit Union located at 3520 Pioneer Parkway within the Harmon's building, subject to 3 conditions. And I'll state those briefly. Item 1, that the new wall sign be placed on the south elevation, flush mounted of the Harmon's building and be allowed at 90 square feet. 2, that the new wall sign includes a cabinet with an aluminum top decor and internally illuminated white LED lighting. And 3rd, that a building permit be applied for and obtained prior to placement of the new wall sign on the building. I'll turn it back over to you, Commissioner Whitehead, and I believe Skylar Walzer, the applicant's on, if you have questions for him.
Skylar, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think that was explained fairly plain and simple as it's on the page right there. And then in the preliminary meeting that I had with Jim, I believe the representative for the fire department had requested an electrical permit to be submitted as well. I have also done that as requested.
Right, and our building official generally requires that, Cody Mitchell, and we've seen that in city inspects, so that's something that we should be able to get to you probably on Monday to get you to proceed. Our building, we have some folks out of town this week with spring break in the area, taking their kids on trips and stuff, but he'll be back bright and early Monday morning, and I'll follow up with him, Skylar. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Commissioners, any questions at this time or discussion topics?
I like it. It looks pretty clean.
Yeah.
It looks
It's an
like
easy
it
one.
might not be quite as bright as well. I don't know. But
Yeah. Yeah. It's 10 square feet less.
Considering they're allowed 1,100 square feet of
If you
signage.
take that whole building
I was
from
gonna say.
east to west, because it's so long and
Yeah.
linear.
I was noticing your
Yeah.
math.
Yeah, that's big math. I wouldn't let them get anywhere close to that, but yeah. Then we'd have to amend the code. So,
All right, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the wall sign application for the America First Credit Union located at 3520 Pioneer Parkway, subject to the 3 conditions stated in the staff report.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Harris and a second by Commissioner Weston. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The Planning Commission approves the wall sign for America First Credit Union located at 3520 Pioneer Parkway with unanimous consent at this time. Thank you for being online.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
You also. We'll continue on. That's the end of our general business. We'll turn some time over to you, Jim. A few items you want to discuss as far as calendaring items and things going forward.
thank you, Commissioner Whitehead, and I'll be brief. The first item is our Planning Commission training with, I always get that acronym wrong, Utah Land Use Institute. That's next Friday, March 22nd from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'd say get there around 8 or 8:15. There might be some registration and some snacks. I know they'll have a break with some snacks like last year and a lunch, kind of a working lunch where they'll be training us. And you get your credit for the year. Everybody will get their certificate signed off on. I sent you an email this afternoon, just a reminder. It's got the agenda as of today. It could change between now and next week, but what I saw on their website, and just kind of a little brief flyer announcement. But that will be at the Abbey Inn on Bluff Street, and so we'll see you next Friday for that. Should be a very interesting day. They've packed it into one day, which I think is good. It doesn't need to be multiple days like they had last year. And then we will meet 2 weeks from today on March 28th. We do have a few items, and then we're going to have a discussion item or an update from Mimi McKenna. Mimi is on our Heritage Commission, and she was selected by the mayor to be the chair of our Historic District Commission, who's been tasked with rewriting our design guidelines for the Historic District. We've done a lot of hard work the last couple of months. We do have our first draft document that's been sent out to some core individuals on the committee. And, you know, we're working on that, and there'll be some rewriting and editing and adding some pictures and other things in the next few weeks. But a few weeks ago, she gave an update to the council, and we were thinking about doing that tonight, but we only had a quorum, and it looks like most can be here in 2 weeks. And so we'd like to give an update when we have better attendance. So that'll be in 2 weeks as well. Probably 15 or 20 minutes. That's about how long it went. And then if you have any questions for Mimi. And then Shelley represents the Planning Commission, and she's on that committee as well. So I'm sure she will have some good comments to add that evening too. So Ben added some comments when we went to the council, because he's not on the committee, but he's the Heritage Commission rep of the council, along with Mimi, and they made me say a few things too, and it went really well. And so probably the three of us, with her taking the lead, will do that in 2 weeks as well. And that will be it. And then that weekend is Easter. We have early Easter in March this year. So I guess, is that the 31st? March 30th, Sunday the 31st. So we're going to be busy the next couple of weeks with the training next Friday, and then a planning commission prior to Easter weekend. So thank you. That's all I have, Commissioner Whitehead.
Thank you. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes? Everything looked good. I wasn't present last time. I did go back through and watched it online, but everything looked good from what they... Do we have a motion to accept or make a motion?
Commissioner Harris?
I want to say I found no errors, but I appreciate all the hard work that goes into these, because this is good to review, because there's some things that I hear you say in the meeting,
Right.
and maybe I don't fully understand until I go back and review these. So thank you, whoever does that. And you use the term messers, and I didn't know what that was. I may have seen that.
Mm-hmm.
I looked it up, and I learned something new.
Yeah. Terry Forbes, who transcribes our minutes, knew that. I've seen it a few times, and I figured it was right because no one's ever said anything, but I'll have to look it up as well.
It means more than one man or one
Oh,
more,
yeah, I looked at that too.
Okay.
more than one male.
I have seen it before, yeah.
Anyway, so thank you for that also.
Well, and Shelley's done a great job keeping us on track with our Historic District Committee, because she reads those minutes, and there's been mistakes because it's a new committee, and with all the people, Terry doesn't really know who they are, so I've been having people say, Mimi, Mandy, Shelley, Jim, Wendell, you know, whoever talks, so she knows who's talking. So, yeah.
Anyway, so yes, would you please note it in the minutes that there are no problems with the minutes
Great.
So I move to approve the minutes as presented from the February 22nd, unless someone has corrections.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes by Commissioner Harris and a second by Commissioner Walton. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed at this time. And we will take a motion to adjourn the meeting until March 28th at 5:30.
Thank you.
I guess do we need a motion to adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will adjourn.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Short meeting tonight, training